Chapter 38. Simon Lovelace strode alone through the corridors and galleries of the great house. His head was bowed as he walked, his hands loosely clasped behind his back. He paid no heed to the rows of paintings, sculptures, tapestries, and other artifacts he passed. He never looked behind him. Nathaniel flitted from pillar to pedestal, from bookcase to writing desk, concealing himself behind each one until he was satisfied the magician was far enough ahead for him to continue. His heart pounded. He had a rushing noise in his ears. It reminded him of a time when he had been ill in bed with fever. He didn't feel ill now, but very much alive. The moment was fast approaching when Lovelace would strike. He knew it as if he had planned it all himself. He didn't yet know what form the attack would take, but he could see its imminence in the tense outline of the magician's shoulders, in his stiff, distracted way of walking. He wished Bartimaeus would find him. The genie was his only weapon. Lovelace ascended a narrow staircase and disappeared through an open arch. Nathaniel climbed after him, placing his feet noiselessly on the slippery marble steps. At the arch, he peered round. It was a small library or gallery of some kind, dimly lit by windows in the roof. Lovelace was making his way along a central aisle between several rows of projecting bookcases. Here and there sat low display tables, supporting a variety of oddly shaped objects. Nathaniel took another peek, decided that his quarry was almost at the opposite door, and tiptoed into the room. Suddenly, Lovelace spoke. "Maurice?" Nathaniel shot behind the nearest bookshelf. He flattened himself against it, forcing himself to breathe quietly. He heard the far door open. Stealthily, careful not to make the slightest noise, he turned his head inch by inch until he could look over the top of the nearest books. Other bookcases separated him from the opposite side of the gallery, but framed in a gap between two shelves, he could just make out the old wrinkled face of Schuyler, the old magician. Lovelace himself was hidden from view. "Simon, what is wrong? Why have you come?" "I've brought you a present." Lovelace's voice was casual, amused. "The boy." Nathaniel nearly fainted with shock. His muscles tensed, ready to run. Lovelace stepped out from behind the end of the bookshelf. "Don't bother. You'll be dead before you can leave the room." Nathaniel froze. Teetering on the edge of panic, he kept quite still. "Come round here to Maurice." Lovelace motioned with ostentatious courtesy. Nathaniel shuffled forward. "There's a good boy. And stop trembling like an invalid. Another lesson for you. A magician never shows his fear." Nathaniel entered the main aisle and halted, facing the old magician. His body was shaking with rage, not fear. He cast his eyes left and right, looking for avenues of escape, but saw none. Lovelace's hand patted him on the back. He recoiled from the touch. "I'm afraid I haven't got time to talk," Lovelace said. "I will leave you in Maurice's tender care. He has an offer to make you. Pardon, was that a mumble?" "How did you know I was here?" "Rufus Lime recognized you. I doubted that you would try anything too hasty downstairs, given that the police are hunting you in connection with that unfortunate fire. So I thought it best simply to lead you away from the crowds before you could make trouble. Now, forgive me, I have a pressing engagement. Maurice, it's time." Schuyler's face crinkled with satisfaction. "Rupert's arrived, has he?" "He's arrived, and his men have conjured a formidable Afreet. Do you think he suspects?"
"No. It is his normal paranoia, sharpened by that cursed attack on Parliament. The Resistance has a lot to answer for. They have not made today's task any easier. Once in power, Simon, we must root them out, these stupid children, and hang them up in chains on Tower Hill.
Lovelace grunted. The Afreet will be present during the speech. Rupert's men will insist.
You will have to stand close to it, Simon. It must get the first full force.
Yes, I hope the amulet...
Stop wasting time. We have talked about this already. You know it will hold firm.
Something in the old man's voice reminded Nathaniel of his own master's cold impatience. The wrinkled face twisted unpleasantly.
You're not fretting about the woman, are you?
Amanda? Of course not. She is nothing to me. So? Lovelace took a deep breath. Is everything set?
The pentacle is ready. I have a good view of the room. Rufus has just put the horn in position, so that's dealt with. I shall keep watch. If any of them resist while it is happening, we shall do what we can. But I doubt if will be necessary.
The old man gave a little titter.
I'm so looking forward to this.
See you shortly. Lovelace turned and headed for the arch. He seemed to have forgotten Nathaniel's existence. The old man suddenly spoke after him.
The Amulet of Samarkand. Do you wear it yet?
Lovelace didn't look back. No, Rufus has it. That Afreet would smell it a mile off, given time. I shall put it on as I enter.
Well then, good luck, my boy.
No answer. Presently, Nathaniel heard footsteps clattering away down the stairs. Then, Schuyler smiled. All the wrinkles and creases of his face seemed to stem from the corners of his eyes, but the eyes themselves were blank slits. His body was so stooped with age that he was scarcely taller than Nathaniel. The skin upon his hands looked waxy, dusted with liver spots. Yet Nathaniel could sense the power in him.
John,
Schuyler said.
That is your name, is it not? John Mandrake? We were very surprised to find you in the house. Where is your demon? Have you lost it? That is a careless thing.
Nathaniel compressed his lips. He glanced aside at the nearest display table. It had a few strange objects on it, stone bowls, bone pipes, and a large moth-eaten headdress, perhaps worn by a North American shaman. All useless to him.
I was for killing you straight away, Schuyler said. But Simon is more far-sighted than I am. He suggested we make you a proposition.
Which is? Nathaniel was looking at the next display table. It carried a few small, dull cubes of metal, wrapped in faded paper strips. The magician followed his gaze.
You are admiring Miss Cathcart's collection. You will find nothing of power there. It is fashionable among rich and stupid commoners to have magical items in their houses, though quite unfashionable to know anything about them. Ignorance is bliss. Sholto Pin is always being pestered by society fools for trinkets like these.
Nathaniel shrugged. You mentioned a proposition.
Yes. In a few minutes, the 100 most powerful and eminent ministers in the government will be dead, along with our sainted Prime Minister. When Simon's new administration takes control, the lower magical orders will follow us unquestioningly, since we will be stronger than them. However, we are not numerous, and there will soon be spaces, vacancies to fill in the higher reaches of the government. We shall require talented new magicians to help us rule. Great wealth and the relaxations of power await our allies. Well now, you are young, Mandrake. but we recognize your ability. You have the makings of a great magician. Join with us, and we shall provide you with the apprenticeship you have always craved. Think about it. No more experiments in solitude. No more bowing or scraping to fools who are scarcely fit to lick your boots. We will test and inspire you. We will draw out your talent and let it breathe. And one day, perhaps, when Simon and I are gone, you will be supreme.
The voice trailed off, left the image hanging. Nathaniel was silent. 6 years of frustrated ambition were etched into his mind. 6 years of suppressed desire, to be recognized for what he was, to exercise his power openly, to go to Parliament as a great minister of state. And now, his enemies were offering it all to him. He sighed heavily.
You're tempted, John. I see that. Well, what do you say?
He looked the old magician directly in the eye. Does Simon Lovelace really think I will join him?
He does.
After everything that has happened?
Even so, he knows how your mind works.
Then Simon Lovelace is a fool.
John,
an arrogant fool! You must... After what he has done to me, he could offer up the world, and I'd refuse it. Join him? I would rather die. Schuyler nodded, as if satisfied.
Yes, I know. That is what I told him you'd say. I perceived you as you are. A silly, muddled child. You have not been brought up correctly. Your mind is fogged. You are of no use to us.
He took a step forward. His shoes squeaked on the shiny floor.
Well, aren't you going to run, little boy? Your genie is gone. You have no power. Would you not like a head start?
Nathaniel did not run. He knew it would be fatal. He flicked a look at the other tables, but couldn't see clearly what objects they displayed. His enemy blocked the way to them.
Do you know, the old man said, I was impressed the first time we met. So young, so full of knowledge. I thought Simon was very harsh on you. Even the affair with the mites was amusing and displayed an enterprising nature. Ordinarily, I would kill you slowly. That would amuse me further. But we have important business in a few moments, and I cannot spare the time.
The magician raised a hand and spoke a word. A shining black nimbus appeared, glimmering and fluctuating around his fingers. Nathaniel threw himself to one side